Good afternoon, year 10, 11, 12 and 13. It is fantastic to have you all with us this afternoon and for our second day of our Career Insight workshop. We have a fantastic lineup for you again today with two guest speakers. So we have got Paige, who is a journalist at the BBC, and then we've got two special guests who you might recognise who are joining us to talk about merchandising and buying at New. A fantastic lineup. So those two speakers, and it will be the whole lesson this afternoon. So I'm going to hand over now to Paige, who is joining us from the BBC, and fantastic to have a journalist with us today who is going to be talking us through her role and some different ways you can get involved and kind of telling us her journey about how she got here. So really excited. Same as yesterday, if you've got any questions, please get your teacher to post those into the Google form and we'll be able to answer those at the end. So really excited, and I'm going to hand over now to Paige.
Hi everyone, so my name is Paige, and as Miss Doyle said, I'm a journalist from the BBC. It's really great to be here to kind of explain to you what journalism is about and how you can get into there. So yeah, I've got a short presentation. I'm just going to explain to you what my day looks like, what a day in the life of a journalist, how you can get into journalism and what skills you'll need. So just for a bit of context, I got in through the Digital Journalism Apprenticeship Scheme with the BBC, but I'll explain that in a bit more detail. But first of all, let's kind of look into what a typical day looks like for a journalist. So some of you might be familiar with journalism. Some of you might not really know what journalism is. So I've got a presentation here to kind of show to you. So what does a typical day look like for me? So I think for all journalists, a typical day, you'll be searching around for stories. So looking to see if a story will work for article or for a digital video, for radio. And the beauty of journalism nowadays is that we've got access to social media. So you can look for stories through social media. So Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook. And on Twitter, you might not even realize, but things that are trending, like hashtags that are trending, if you look deeper into that, that can become a story. Or if you know, you're in a Facebook group chat and people are talking about a particular thing, if you do a bit more research into that can become a story. There's a thing called Google Trends, which again shows you things that are trending on Google, what people are searching for the most. And also just like speaking to people, if you're speaking to your friends and your family and they're talking about something a lot, I don't know, for example, there's a fire in a particular area, that could become a story. That was a bit of a boring example, but yeah, speaking to people is old school journalism, and it really, really does work. So as well, that kind of ties in with research. So not only would you be looking on social media or looking on Google, but if you have just like an original story idea and you don't know if anything's been done into it, you obviously look online and see if other news outlets have done stories on it. And then you can also look for data as well to see if there's any concrete, strong data that you could then base your story on. Obviously, it's a bit boring, but lots and lots of meetings. You have, depending on what team you're with, you might have meetings every day, or you might have meetings once or twice a week. So far, I have meetings once or twice a week. And then obviously, depending on what your role is, you might get to write articles. So sometimes I've been able to write articles, and within that, you'll do research calls. So with an article, you obviously have your contributors. So those are the people that you speak to, you know, produce the article. So before you write the article, you obviously have to do a research call and just make sure that they're legit, that their story is convincing, and then obviously it's your job to write it up. I've been able to produce digital videos, and if you're lucky, then you might get to present some digital videos as well. And it might be worth letting you know. So my team that I'm with at the moment, I'm with what's called a news pilot, and it's called Learning and Identity. And it's coming to the end of it. It finishes on Wednesday, but it's basically about modernizing news. So how we can reach younger audiences or audiences that are not reach as much. So yeah, I've been working on that for the past 6 months, which has literally flown by. But I've been able to do some bits and bobs there. So these are just a few pictures of some of the things that I've been able to do. And as I mentioned a minute ago, I did do an apprenticeship. So some of these pieces are things that I got to do on my apprenticeship. And then some of these pieces are things I got to do when I was doing the news pilot. This article here was one of the first articles that I got to write when I was on my apprenticeship. And it's something I was really, really proud of, because it was about a petition for 10 a.m. school starts, and who knows, some of you might have even signed it. But yeah, no one from my team had flagged it up, and no one from the BBC or any other news outlets had done a piece on it. And I was one of the first people to flag up this petition. And I got to interview some people, went down to a school in Walthamstow. And yeah, it was really, really good because no one had actually flagged it up. So I was very proud of that as an apprentice. And then this picture here was when I got to do my work placement at BBC Radio London. So I have been able to do some radio work as well. That was really, really fun. And I also got to meet one of my best friends there too. So you also get to meet great people when you're doing journalism too. And then these pieces here, I've got to present a few pieces whilst I was on the news trial. So my good friend Kez, I got to do a piece there about how university students are going to get back home during the pandemic. And then this one here about how, you know, A-level students were coping with cancelled exams. So I got to speak to some students there. And yeah, these are just a few these are just a few of the things that I've been able to do. But yeah, there's so many opportunities in journalism, and you're always learning something new every day. So some of you might be wondering, how do you get into the journalism industry? So there are so many ways that you can get into the journalism industry. So obviously there are schemes, there are apprenticeship schemes, and the BBC JTS scheme. So let me break that down a bit more. So the BBC offer apprenticeship schemes and then a JTS scheme. So the JTS scheme is a scheme for uni graduates who have done a degree at university and are now looking to go into journalism. So that is specific to the BBC. And then with the BBC apprenticeship scheme, they offer so many different apprenticeships. They do it for obviously journalism, they do it for camera operators, engineering, tax, lots and lots of apprenticeships. But obviously I did the journalism one. And with that one, that apprenticeship is for people who have not, I think they've not got a qualification level 4 and above. So that's basically a degree. So for me, I went straight from A levels into an apprenticeship. I didn't get a degree. I didn't get anything along the lines of that. I just went straight into my apprenticeship. So that's the difference with the BBC. And then other news outlets also do offer apprenticeships. I don't know if they offer similar things to JTS like the BBC do, but I know that Sky, they offer an apprenticeship. I did apply for that one, but I obviously didn't get it. And then ITV, they also offer apprenticeship too. I think apprenticeships are starting to become a bit more popular now. When I was applying, which was only a few years ago, only the main news outlets were offering apprenticeships, but I think more and more media companies are now offering apprenticeships. So it's definitely worth talking to your careers advisor if you have one, and just having a little search around. So that's one of the ways of getting in there. You can also just go straight to university. So obviously I didn't go to university, but a lot of people that I work with or who I'm friends with, they went to university and they studied a degree. Now, some of you might be thinking, oh, okay, so I have to go to university and study a journalism degree. That's not always the case. So my friend that I met at Radio London, she did study journalism at university, but also someone from my department who's like really senior, she studied history. So I think with journalism, you don't actually have to study an actual journalism degree. One thing that I'm going to be reiterating a lot is, well, with my experience, I think the BBC in particular, they're looking for potential. So try not to get it in your head that you have to study a journalism degree. Obviously, it will give you a head start because then you'll know, how a newsroom might operate or how to write things. But if you're in the stages where you're like, I don't know if I want to do journalism, I don't know if I want to do, French or history, but you do know you want to go to university. One thing that my friend said is that, she's glad that she studied what she wanted to at university, because either way, she's now got into the industry. So that is another way in there. Another way is work experience. So again, the BBC do offer work experience. I do believe you have to be 18 for the work experience and the apprenticeship schemes. But yeah, I know someone who did work experience with BBC Sport. I think it was for 2 weeks. And then a few years later, she literally got an award for one of the best sports journalists. So she now has a full-time job there. So the BBC do offer work experience. I'm not too sure for I think ITV do offer work experience too. But this kind of leads me on to my next point, which is shooting your shot. So that is so important, I think, like literally asking and making contact. So if you if the BBC their work experience is full up, or if you can't find any other company that explicitly offer work experience, shoot your shot and literally go on Twitter, find some of the correspondents, or find people that that work for that company. Just start talking to them. Just say, I'm interested in working in the industry. I'd love to kind of get some work experience. Would you have any advice? And most times people, they're willing to give you their time. And as well, like these news companies are really looking for young talent too. So more often than not, they'll probably give you advice, and you never know, like through that, they might, give you a foot in the door and say, well, hey, I know someone that will be able to, you can shadow. So always shoot your shot. Like if you don't ask, you don't get. So definitely go for that. And then obviously there it says I got in through the BBC apprenticeship. And then, so with the qualification side of things, so it really does depend. Obviously, if you go to university and you study a degree, then you're going to have a degree. But for my case, for the BBC apprenticeship, the only qualifications that I needed to do the apprenticeship were 5 GCSEs from a C grade and above. So I obviously did my GCSEs, but they didn't ask anything about A levels. So that was my case. I don't know if it's the same for other news companies, but that was the case for me to get my apprenticeship. So that might be something to bear in mind. But yeah, those are a few different ways that you can get into the journalism industry. So what skills do I need? So this is quite a broad one, but I think the main thing that you need is a passion for storytelling. And that's not just about news. Like you don't necessarily just have to have a passion for news. Obviously, if you want to get into news, then that is helpful. But journalism is about telling a story. And there are different forms of journalism. There's obviously news, there's sports, there's music journalism. Journalism isn't just news, but you have to have a passion for telling stories and engaging an audience. So, you might be like really good at telling your friends, at lunchtime, or what happened on the weekend. And if you find that your friends are like, oh, tell me more, like what happened on the weekend, you clearly have a talent for storytelling because you are able to grasp and engage your friends and that audience. And that is a transferable skill because then you can then bring that to the journalism industry. It's always, helpful to have a decent knowledge of English, grammar and punctuation. In a lot of the job titles, when I'm looking for like different jobs and doing job applications, they always say you need to have like a good knowledge of English and how grammar and punctuation works. So that's always a helpful skill. And then writing skills, that's always helpful. Filming and editing skills, those are always helpful too. But I will get onto that in a second, because obviously if you've never, been in the industry before, how am I supposed to have these skills if I've never done it before? So I will get onto that in a second. But it's always good to work in a fast-paced environment. So I think this is quite specific for news. News is definitely fast-paced. It's quite intense, but it can be rewarding at the same time. So that's always a good skill to have. And definitely teamworking. A lot of things that you do in journalism is a team effort. Even if you are writing an article that is going to be your article and you've pitched, more times you'll find that you might literally ask a colleague for their advice on, how to write something or how to word something, or if they can quickly have a read over it and just make sure it reads well. So you definitely need to have team working skills. Here's some extra advice. So like I said earlier, employers, I think a lot nowadays are looking for potential and someone who's going to bring something new to the table. This is really important, and it also ties in with the next point, which is staying true to yourself. So like employers are really looking for potential. So to bring it to my experience, when I was applying for my apprenticeship, obviously I'd had a bit experience with like writing, and I had a bit experience with filming and editing things, but that was in my own time. Like it'd never been put on like a news outlet or anything. I'd literally just dumped it on YouTube just because I wanted to edit a video. But from my experience, the employers were really looking for potential. So when I went to my assessment center, so like the final stage of the interviews, when I was speaking to all the people that were kind of like my competition, they were all saying like, yeah, like I write for this local newspaper, or like, yeah, I have a blog, or I write for this and that, or I film for this and that, blah, 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 blah. And I was literally sat there like, bro, like, I don't do any of this. Like, this is kind of peak. Like, how am I going to be able to like match these people? But actually, what I learned from that experience is that the employers saw that I had the passion, and they saw that they had I had the potential. And I stayed true to myself, and that's important because it's what you can bring new to the table. So obviously for me, I'm young, and obviously like I'm really passionate about Black stories too. So that's something that I can bring to the table, and help the BBC reach an audience that might be quite is quite underrepresented. So because I have that experience, and because it's something I'm passionate about, and obviously I'm part of the generation where the BBC are really trying to reach, that's my fresh perspective that I can bring to the table. But also in terms of staying true to yourself, again, back to my apprenticeship experience, when I rocked up to the assessment center, everyone was wearing, not to say that this is a bad thing, but everyone was wearing like suits and ties, or like really smart skirts, high heels. Me, I rocked up in some trousers, a top, and some silver shoes, like some silver trainers thing. Like, I literally got there and I thought, wow, like they're probably not going to hire me because I don't look smart. But actually, it made me stand out. And why it's so important to stay true to yourself is the people that were interviewing me literally stopped me mid-interview and made a point of saying, like, I love your shoes, like they're great. So perhaps if I had, forced myself to try and look a certain way and try and fit in, I might not have got the job. So it's so important to stay true to yourself. Always say yes to opportunities. So if you speak to someone and you say, I'm looking to get into the industry, would you be able to help me with this and this and this? And they say, okay, let's set up a Zoom, because we're obviously in a pandemic now. Say yes. Like, obviously if you can't do it for good reason, politely ask if you can reorganize, but they are giving you your time. So always say yes to that. And as well, if you do eventually get into the industry and you're told to do a certain task, say yes. It might not even be something that you want to do, but you have to say yes to these opportunities, so that you can progress. And also, let's say that your passion is writing, but someone tells you to go and make this digital video. Don't say no to that, because firstly, you'll learn from that experience. And secondly, you might actually find out, oh, actually, I do like creating digital video. So always say yes to opportunities, even if you think, oh, it's going to be a waste of time. It's never a waste of time. You're always going to learn. This also kind of ties in with my next point, which is be nice. Just be nice and be a decent person. That might sound obvious, but honestly, I was speaking to someone a few months ago who was really high up. She's called Jasmine Dotwala, and she was like the head of like MTV, and she now is a presenter at BBC London. And she was saying, like, just always be nice. Like, it goes such a long way. People will remember you for your niceness. People will remember you for being a nice, decent, friendly person. And again, always, always, always say thank you. If someone is giving you their time, because let me just let you know, like, journalism is quite a fast-paced job, and you often find that you might not have time for things. So if someone is giving you their time and you don't say thank you, they will remember that, and they will think, well, I'm not going to feel inclined to help them later on, because were they even grateful for what I did? But at the same time, if you do go out of your way and you just say thank you, and even after, if they've done what they did to help you, and you just write them an email, just say, thank you so much, like, I've learned so much, they will also remember that, and they'll think, okay, so this person really, appreciated the time that I gave them. They clearly want to learn, and they're clearly grateful. They're going to be more inclined to help you out. So always, always, always say thank you. So what can you do beforehand if you're not quite in the industry, or you're not old enough to get an apprenticeship? So it's always useful to learn some of these skills to show that you are interested, and also to give yourself a head start. So, for example, you can start writing a blog in your own time. It doesn't have to be a blog that is for like a local newspaper. Literally, like, there's WordPress, or there's other websites that you can write your own blog. And this, gives you the experience of, you know, sourcing contributors. So even if it's your friend, like let's say you're writing about I don't know, makeup or something, even if it's your friends, that's still giving you experience of asking your friends, can you, you know, contribute to my blog, interviewing them and then writing that up. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be, you know, BBC standard, because it's not going to be going on the BBC, but it's just about, you know, getting that practice. Or you might want to try and write for your school newsletter. So if your school has a newsletter, I think I did once, I wrote for the school newsletter, and, you know, it just, you know, gives you that experience. You can edit videos in your own time or make a YouTube channel. So if you find yourself kind of, you know, going around the house and you pretend that you're like a YouTuber or you're a vlogger, why not like actually materialize that and just start up a YouTube channel. It can be about anything you want, and whatever you're passionate about. If you're passionate about food, makeup, cars, anything, why don't you actually turn that passion into something that's going to benefit you in the long run? Start creating videos. There are so many different things that you can edit on. Final Cut Pro, obviously that's quite expensive, but if you have an iPhone, you can use iMovie that comes with your iPhone or an Apple Mac. I think there's Adobe as well that you can use on a Windows computer, I think. But there are so many different things that you can edit on. So, you know, just go for it. And as well, if you have a phone, you can film from your phone as well. You don't have to have a fancy camera. But I think these skills are really, really important as well, to know, because it's stuff that you can, you know, do to help yourself in the future. And you can also do it, obviously we're in a pandemic, hopefully coming out of the pandemic, but it's things that you can also do as well in a pandemic, to try and like boost your skills. So you don't necessarily have to leave outside to film something. You can do it inside. If you're filming like a makeup video, you can do that inside. And as well, obviously it's a pandemic, so be kind to yourself. Like, try not to be too harsh on yourself and have too many expectations. This is really, really difficult time, so just take it slow, day by day. Maybe set yourself mini goals. Say at the end of this month, I want to kind of, you know, have started looking into how I can develop a certain skill. And also YouTube is so useful. Like, if you have no idea, like you're starting from complete scratch, you have no idea how to film a video, no idea how to edit a video, and no idea how to write, there are so many things on YouTube and it's completely free. So go on YouTube and just search up how to do things. Like, even if you don't have the tools to be able to actually create something of your own, just by searching it up and just getting familiar with it, that's still going to be really helpful. But one thing I'd say is, I think a lot of people have the skills without realizing. Like, even with Snapchat, like if you know that something's going to be exciting and you want to get it on your Snapchat story, like that's still subconsciously, you're still thinking like, okay, this is going to be something that's going to engage my people on my Snapchat. So that is still a skill that you can then turn into a skill that can be used for journalism. Like, these are all things that people don't actually realize that can, you know, be useful. And yeah, the final thing that I'd say is, obviously I've got Twitter, I've left my handle there. My DMs are open, so feel free to DM me if you have any questions, or you have any, you know, things that you want to ask. I'm more than happy to answer on Twitter. But yeah, that's all for now.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Paige, and some great advice, and really nice to hear about sort of your journey through it and some of the work that you have been working on. A reminder, I've had a couple of questions through already, but if you are sitting in your classroom and you've got a question you'd like to ask Paige, if you can get your teacher, or if you're on a study, you can enter it in yourself to the Google form, and then I'll be able to ask them. So Paige, to start off, I've got them all up here on my screen. We've got a question about whether you always knew you wanted to work in journalism. Was that something you've always wanted to do?
That's a really good question. And actually, no, I didn't. Well, not journalism. I always knew that I wanted to be in the media or the kind of creative industry. But actually, if I'm being honest with you, when I was younger, I was like, I'll never be a journalist. Could you imagine? Because I literally thought journalism was just like newspaper, and obviously that wasn't my passion. And if you do like writing for print, there's nothing wrong with that. But me personally, I just didn't imagine myself doing that. But this is the thing. When you actually start looking into it and you do more and more research, you realize that there is more to journalism than you could think. And obviously with the technology nowadays, a lot of it is online, a lot of it is digital. So to answer your question, no, I didn't always know. I always thought I'd be in the creative industry and the media industry, but not necessarily journalism. But because I found that apprenticeship, I was like, why not? Let me go for it. And here I am. And I really do enjoy journalism. And not to speak too long, but just to say that that's why you should always say yes, because that might open up an opportunity that you would have never imagined yourself being in. So yeah.
Yeah, amazing. And I think what we've realised from some of our speakers already this week is that people's careers evolve, and it's not always going towards the plan they thought. It kind of works out well. I have got a question from one of our year 13s who is asking about kind of any top tips for what information you should include in a cover letter if you were applying for an apprenticeship.
Sure. If I'm being honest, I don't think I had to do a cover letter for my apprenticeship. I think it was literally like with the BBC, they obviously wanted you to kind of do like the application, and they gave you a task to do. So I'm just trying to think. I don't think I actually included, I did a cover letter, but I guess, just stay true to yourself. Be honest, be honest. Don't say that you're capable of doing something if you're not, because that will come back around to bite you. But yeah, try and include things that will make you stand out and show your authenticity. So, for example, if you can speak Arabic, 100% include that in there, because you never know. Like, they might be like, okay, this person's great for being placed in the world service. So yeah, stay true to yourself and try and create a really authentic cover letter. Don't be afraid to take risks with it.
Amazing, and some really good advice there. I've got another one from Tanya who's asking about whether an English literature degree would be a good choice if you want for someone who wants to go into journalism. Would that be a good route into it?
Okay, sure. Hey Tanya. So I think, yeah, definitely. Obviously, I didn't go to university, so it might be best speaking to someone else about it. But it makes sense too, because if you want to get into writing, or even if you're doing digital video, you still have to have a good grasp of the English language, to be able to like write little slates and stuff like that. But yeah, it makes complete sense to do it. And I think if that's what you want to do, go for it, because there are always ways to get into the journalism industry. But if you are passionate about English literature and that's what you want to do, and you do want to go to university, what I've been told and what I've heard by people is to just always do a degree that you're gonna enjoy. But it does make sense, I don't see why they wouldn't accept you for her doing an English literature degree.
Yeah, amazing. And we can definitely have a look. Tanya, if you want a little bit more advice about that, we can talk that through. I've got one from Faisal in year 10 who's asked about inspiration for a blog post. So they've said, what is the topic for a blog post?
Sure. So I think do something about something you're passionate. Do it on something you're passionate about. If you're passionate about cars, but you're doing it about, I don't know, tea, for example, it's not going to be a good blog post because you're not going to enjoy writing it. Just think of things that you enjoy doing. Like, honestly, there are no limits on what you want to do a blog post on. If you want to do a blog post on candles, do a blog post on candles. I know it's completely random, but you've got to do something. You've got to do it on something that you enjoy. But for inspiration, I have a friend who created a blog post last year, and she basically does it just speaking to people about, current affairs and kind of like societal issues. So, for example, I'm trying to think of something. Well, she actually spoke to me about, my experience with, being mixed race and like learning to love my blackness and stuff like that. So I wrote for her for that. Obviously, a bit of a sensitive topic, but with the increased Asian hate crime that's been happening, she's been getting to people who are Asian and speaking to them about, their, how it's impacting the community and, how it makes them feel. So yeah, things that are happening in society and community, that can be a great start for a blog post. And I think you'll find that when you start getting into the swing of things, it'll just come to you naturally.
Yeah, amazing. Some really good advice there again, and some inspiration. Looking forward to seeing all those blog posts from you guys. I've got another one from Sunny in year 11 who's asked, how do you manage the stress of tight deadlines?
That is an interesting one. I think so first of all, it can be stressful, like, I'll be honest with that. Um, but I think it really does depend on the person. Like for me, even though I can get stressed out quite a lot, I do somehow just work better under pressure. And I think it's something that you kind of learn to deal with more experience. Obviously, I'm still quite junior in my job role. Like I'm nowhere near as experienced as someone way high up. But what drives you is you realize that at the end of the day, no matter what, you have to get this piece out at this certain time. You've got an audience to serve, so you have to get it out by that time. So I think you kind of just go into this like mode where you're like, right, I just have to graft and I just have to go for it. And then afterwards, you kind of like reflect and you think, okay, that was quite stressful. How did I do that? But in terms of dealing with it, you just tell yourself, well, the more that I stress about this, the more time I'm wasting. So every minute, every second counts. Literally in news, every second counts. So you just tell yourself, I have to get on with this, and yeah, just make sure that you work towards that deadline. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, brilliant. And I've got one final question. Thank you so much for your time this afternoon. From Anthony in year 10, who said, other than GCSEs, what experience would be good for a job in order to get a job somewhere like the BBC? So any advice on kind of experiences that would be good?
Sure. So if you want to get into journalism, again, in terms of experience, if you can, so things to do by yourself. You can obviously start a blog post. You can try and start editing on YouTube. Oh, not even for YouTube, just editing videos. Or hopefully when it's more safe to do so, you can ask to volunteer at places. So like if you have a local like magazine or local newspaper, you can kind of see if you can volunteer there. So get in touch with them and see if they're looking for someone who might be happy for an extra person to write a column, or even if it's just like shadowing, getting work experience there, shadowing and seeing how they operate. Or you can try and volunteer, depending on what journalism you want to get into. So that's for like writing. If you want to get into radio, a lot of hospitals have like a community radio station, so a radio station that they play in the hospital. So see if you can maybe volunteer there as well. I did try to do that, but I never was successful in doing it. But hopefully you guys will have more success. But if that's not possible, again, you can do so many things by yourself nowadays, like creating a blog post, or even like on Instagram, you've got IGTV as well. So if YouTube's not your forte, just creating like videos that you can put on your Instagram as well. There are so many options. But obviously I know that we run out of time. So if you have any more questions, please feel free to get in touch with me on Twitter and I can answer some more questions there.
Amazing, thank you, and thank you for all your wisdom and advice today. I know it's being greatly received by our students, so a big thank you from us at Bexley Heath, and we really appreciate your time today. So thank you, Paige. Have a lovely day, and
thank you.
Hopefully see you soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, fantastic. So we've had our first guest speaker and that was brilliant. And I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did, and some amazing advice and top tips for things that you guys can be getting involved with. Our second career that we're going to be looking at today is in the fashion industry. And I'm so pleased to introduce Miss Gaskin and Miss Peeney, who you will know, who are joining us today to talk about a previous industry that they worked in. We've got Miss Peeney and Miss Gaskin here. So they're going to be talking to you today about an industry that they used to work in. And I know that it's going to be a fantastic insight into that world. So I'm going to hand over to them now, who are going to present for you.
Hi everyone, welcome to our career event. So we will be talking about the fashion industry. So I'm just going to take you through a little introduction of sort of what we're going to cover in this session, and hopefully we'll answer all of your questions. So first of all, we'll be looking at what does a normal day consist of. Now, there's not really a typical day. Obviously, it differs every day. So we'll try and cover your normal expectations that you would have every day. What skills do you need? What are your responsibilities of the role? Are there any perks? And I think there are quite a few perks. Miss, I'm sure you'll agree with me.
Yep.
Are there any career opportunities, and why should you join the fashion industry? So first of all, we're just going to introduce ourselves. So I am Miss Peony, and I used to work for Arcadia. So they used to own Topman, Topshop, Burton, Dorothy Perkins, Wallace, Miss Selfridge, and Evans. Now, I'm not sure if you've watched the news recently, but they don't own those brands anymore. They're not owned by Arcadia, but they've been taken over by Boohoo and ASOS. So they still exist. They're just not owned by Arcadia anymore. I was in my role for 2 years. So over to you, Miss.
So, hello everyone, my name is Miss Gaskin, and for those that I teach in the year groups that we are presenting to, you all know that I used to work for the big high street brand New Look. So I worked at New Look for a really long time, in total 10 years. I started in the shops, in retail as soon as I could, working in the stores, meeting and greeting customers, and then I worked my way up to get a design role in head office, which is on Oxford Street.
Okay, so the departments we're going to be looking at is first buying and merchandising. So merchandising was what I used to do. We'll be moving on to design, visual merchandising. Then we'll move on to digital. So they look after all our internet sales. And we'll move on to wholesale, international, and branch. So wholesale, international, and branch, they work quite closely together. International is your stores abroad. So for example, Wallace had a store in Dubai, and international will be making sure that we send the appropriate clothing. Certain colours and slogans are not appropriate to be sent there. So they have to make sure that that is not sent. Branch will just be looking after the UK stores, again, making sure that they've got enough stock in the stores, and any problems that might arise, then they will deal with them. The rest of the departments we are going to take you through one by one. So we'll start off with merchandising. So as I've just said, that was my main role, and you are known as the purse string holders, and this is mainly because you are looking after the money. You will make sure that you're not overspending, and you work very closely with the buying team, so you'll make sure that they're not overspending. So as the next point says, you are responsible for the budget. You'll be given a budget quarterly, so you just have to make sure you're monitoring it. You're not too far under, because if you're too far under, then you've not bought enough products, and if you're obviously too far over, then you've spent way too much. So you just have to keep an eye on it. You'll also be analysing your sales, so you'll be doing your lessons learned. So this, you can learn what went well. So if an item sold really well, then you can obviously make sure you make that again. And if it didn't sell too well, then you look into it and you see what happened. Then the next thing we do is delivery dates, which is so important because you have launch dates, and you need to make sure that your season is launching on that appropriate day, because there's so much marketing and everything that's gone into it that has to launch. So you've got to keep an eye on, are your deliveries coming into your warehouse on time? Something could have happened and you've got to try and sort that issue out. You'll then be responsible for allocating stock to stores and online. So I'll be the one that comes into the warehouse. I make sure that it gets to the stores that I've said it is going to, and that that stock gets online so we can start making sales as soon as possible. And because you're responsible for doing that, you're then responsible for monitoring your stock levels. So every day I would log in and make sure that my shops are nice and full, that online hasn't sold out, and I'll be responsible for all of that. And then finally, not sure if it was my favourite part, Miss, don't know how you feel about this one, is our trade packs. So that would happen every Monday. Miss, it was the same for you, wasn't it?
Yep.
Every Monday, you know you're coming in and you're making trade packs. So that will be, you're looking at the sales for the week. And it's so important because over the weekend, obviously you're not in the office, so you don't know what's happening. So you're looking at these figures, seeing what's happened. Did we sell lots? Did we not? And then you'll be comparing it back to last year. So we're seeing if we're improving, if we're not, and then you present this to the directors. So that's something that all brands, no matter where you work, you'll do trade packs. So this is just an example of a trade pack that I created once. So it's my different departments, what we sold, and you compare it against last year. So this is the kind of thing you'd be pulling every single Monday if you was to work in this role. Although it doesn't look the most exciting, it was nice to make because you could see your sales creeping up. So that was really enjoyable. So this is just another example. So I would put together my top sellers, and this is something you would present, and this is the kind of thing you'd be making every single week. You'd be putting what the item is, how many units you've sold, coverage, just how quickly you've sold it. So you don't want the item to be selling too quickly because then you've not made enough, but you don't want it to be selling too slowly because obviously it's not successful. So it's your job to pull that data together and then explain it to the rest of the team. So now we're going to move on to buying. So merchandising and buying work really closely together because, as I said before, I'm looking after the money. So I need to make sure that they're not overspending and I'm keeping them in line. So a buying job role, you would be negotiating prices with your suppliers that are all over the world. Now, you could have suppliers from India, Morocco, Turkey, could be in the UK, anywhere. So it depends what department you're in as to where your suppliers would be. So I know in my brand, Casual Tops were working with suppliers from India, so they would have a really short time frame to communicate. So you might be getting messages late at night just because obviously you've not got the same time zone. So it's nice because you get to meet all these people from all over the world and different cultures. It's great. You get to work with different fabrics and different materials. Obviously, you need to help source these products to make source these materials to make your product. So you've got to get good with finding the newest fabrics and different materials that are appropriate for your clothing. You work closely with different teams. So as I've just said, you work with your merchandising team, and Miss will explain how you work closely with design. You have samples. So I have one with me. So I'm not sure how well you can see this, but this is a sample that I've got from my work. And as soon as it's been made and you're happy with it, you then card it up. So with this card, it tells me the name of the product, the price. So this was selling for £33. It tells me how many units were made and where it's going. So I know that 3,126 were going to the UK. And had it been going to other countries, that would have been labelled on here so we know. And then it tells me what week it's coming into the business so that I know, working on the merchandising team, when I need to send that product out to the stores. So once you've got your samples, your buying team, you card this up so that anyone can pick up this top and they would know exactly what is happening with this top and when it's coming in. So that's a really important part of your job. You check your daily stocks because obviously you've made your daily sales, because you've made these products. So you need to see what worked well and what didn't so that you can change what you've done for the following season or the next year. This one's really exciting. You get to identify upcoming trends for the next season. So you'll be looking at what other companies are doing, what other competitors are doing, so that you can do something similar, make it better, and you're always one step ahead. Over to you, Miss.
So, guys, I am going to just quickly go through with you a normal day in the buying industry. So when you're working in the buying industry, you are office-based, usually 9 till 5, and we're going to just go through about what the normal day looks like. So your day would usually start before 9 a.m. You'd be expected to be in a little bit earlier, ready to start work for 9 a.m. So a normal day in the office if you worked on the buying team. So there's all different levels of buying that you can work at, and all the different responsibilities go to the different roles. So you could be attending appointments with suppliers. So your suppliers are the people that make your garments for you. But some of them will have offices based in the UK, and you'd be able to go there and speak with them, and they would show you their latest ideas, and you would talk to them about ideas that you have to get this into work. You would have your big Monday morning trade meeting. So as Miss Peony explained, trade is a really important meeting in the buying industry. We have it every Monday morning, and everyone gets their products out and shows them and tells the business how well they're doing. It's really good for your department if you have a product that's doing fantastic and it's making the business loads of money. So that is the aim of the game, really. You would have experience with working with quality control and garment technologists. When I was a designer, I worked really closely with my quality control. So she would always check that my garments are not, got bits falling off so that the little children could eat, and that everything's safe and all good and well to be sold to thousands of people. You would be planning for the season ahead. So you would have daily meetings with all the people in your team talking about the next season ahead. You have really nice opportunities to go and attend trade shows. So they can be in the UK or they can be anywhere around the world. And a nice little perk of the job as well is it's part of your job, and it's really important that you're keeping up with other competitors and what they are doing. So for me, when I used to work for New Look, I did spend quite a lot of my time on Oxford Street, going up and down the shops, looking at what products my competitors are currently bringing in. And then I would collate a report of my findings and present that back to my team. So, as you all know, guys, I used to work as a designer for New Look. So I'm just going to go through a few responsibilities of the role in case it's anything that interests you guys. So, your main job is developing the next season ahead. So you are always working 2 or 3 seasons ahead. You're usually working a good year in advance. It depends how long your products take to make. And you've obviously got to consider that your suppliers are obviously working as well for other retailers up and down the country. So you need to get that slot on the production line. My engineering guys will know what the production line is. You need to get your slot on the production line to get your products made. To be a designer, you have to have quite good hand-drawn sketching skills, because that's how every design would start, to keep it original, to keep it your own. You're not copying anyone else. So you would sketch your design by hand first, and then you would transfer it onto the computer and draw over it with all the Adobe suite. You would be analysing trends, fabrics, colours and shapes. One of my favourite things about when I used to work at New Look, we had this huge cupboard that had every fabric possible that you could think of. So I've worked with many different fabrics over the time. I used to love going to the fabric cupboard, finding all these amazing glitzy swatch cards and using it for a makeup bag. It was so exciting. You would then be working with your team. So you'd be working with buying, merchandising, who do the numbers, tell you how much of something you can buy. But you can be influential. If you think something's going to be good, you can push them, you know, to get more in the business. And you'd obviously be working really closely with QA. You'd be overseeing production. So this is where I'd work with my QA. So my supplier would make me my first sample, and it would come in, and we would look at this before it goes into production. So my engineering guys, that would be a prototype. Yeah, we were just going over that in our do now. So I would get my final sample in before it went to production, and me and my QA would sit together and go, yeah, we're happy for that to go ahead now. And literally thousands would be made. You would communicate with suppliers all around the world, like Miss Peeny's gone over. You attend meetings and you attend trade shows. So I'm just going to take you guys into another little role that I've done in my time. I used to be a visual merchandiser, an in-store visual merchandiser for the really nice luxury brand Diesel. So I used to work in the store. I used to work 6. I start at 6 in the morning, 6 till 4, I think my hours used to be. I used to quite like that. I'm quite an early riser. If it means I get a nice evening, works for me. So I used to go into the store really early in the morning before no one else could see the store, because usually that window that you can see there, I'd be ripping it apart, pulling out the old window and putting in the new window. So this was a really fun hands-on job, because all the things that you can see in the window there, I would have to put together. So it was a bit like getting an IKEA manual and having to put it all together, making it look nice. I'd be able to put the outfits together, put our best sellers in the window. So it was really fun. So my daily activities would include, we would, again, really similar to working in head office, I would get a bestseller sheet, so my stuff that sold really well, and I would always move them products to the front of the store, so they were the first thing that the person saw when they came to the store, and I would also put them in the window. I would be displaying my clothing trends, as you can see on the pictures here. I've got a male collection and a female collection. My job was to just make sure that the clothes looked perfect at all times, all buttons done up, you couldn't see any security tags, just perfect. And you can also see like the graphics that you can see on the walls there. I would have had to have climbed the ladder and put that in and made sure it looked all perfect. So I was just the person that looked after the presentation of the store to make sure it looked beautiful.
Okay, so the next department we're looking at is the department that I worked in for about 1.5 years. It's wholesale. So you're working with partners abroad and as well as the UK. So I've just popped up some of the partners I worked with. So Lamoda was in Russia, Namchi was in Dubai, and Zalando was in Germany. So working in wholesale, you're still working within merchandising, so you're still in control of the numbers and the money, but you're now selling your products to partners abroad, and I'll sell them at a cheaper price, and they can put them on their websites and they sell them, and obviously they make a profit. Now, for the business, it's an instant sale. As soon as I make that purchase, as soon as they buy those clothes from me, it's an instant sale. I will get that money instantly. So whether they sold 1 unit or 100 units, that doesn't affect the brand's money. However, I would monitor their sales, because the more they sold, the more the budget went up, which meant the more they spent with me. So it was better for me to monitor their sales, and if something was going wrong or something wasn't selling very well, I could work with them and we could try and find ways for them to improve this. It could be purely that the picture wasn't shot very well, so they need to get that reshot, or it's too far down on a page. So we just work together to make sure we can improve the sales. So for some brands, I would actually look after their digital uploads. So for example, Next, I was in control of their website. So I would upload all their photos, get those photos shot, put the descriptions on there, and just make sure that I was looking after the day-to-day running of the website for my brand. So it's a really great opportunity to work with lots of different people from all around the world, and get to know their cultures and just make more friends within the business. So you're not just talking to the people from your brand, you get to talk to people from all different companies, and it's a really nice way to meet lots of new people. So some key skills that we think that you need is massive one, being creative. If you work in design or buying, it is so design or buying, it's so important that you're creative. Obviously that is part of your job. Working more under pressure, working for a high street brand is always going to be really pressurized. If you work for a more high-end brand, the sales aren't as fast, so it's a little bit more slow paced. But high street brands are going to be extremely fast paced. There's such a quick turnover. You're always trying to make new products. You've got so many competitors you need to beat. So you've got to be able to work well under pressure. And I loved that part of it, having that pressure. You've got to have good people skills and good communication. That's purely because you're talking to people within your brand all the time, and obviously people outside of the brand. So you've got to have really good communication skills. An eye for fashion, colour and texture. Now this is massively important when you work for the buying and design department, because again, that is your job. You've got to put together all these looks, so you've got to be able to identify and spot great colours, great textures, new and up and coming colours, and all that kind of stuff. Numeracy skills. So this is an important skill for all departments, but mainly merchandising, because again, this is your job day in, day out. Excel is what you live on, so you've got to be comfortable with numeracy skills. And obviously you will get support within your job. If it's something that you think you're not 100% confident on, they will help you to grow this, but you need to naturally be confident using your numeracy skills. Ability to meet deadlines is so important. A lot of your job is based on a launch day, so you will need to make sure that you are prepared and you are organized in order to meet these deadlines, because if you don't, you could be the person that impacts meeting that launch day. And if it's not for a launch day, it might be that, for example, merchandising, they might want me to look back at the figures for a certain style of top. They want that because it's important, because they need to know if they should recreate that top or make something different. So you've got to make sure that you're able to meet deadlines. And in order to do that, organizational skills. For me, a list and a notepad was my best friend. That's what I lived with every day. Miss, I think it was the same for you as well. Without a list, I don't know where I'd be. So organizational skills is what will get you through everything.
So guys, we are just going to quickly go through some products that are made in the industry. So everything you can see on this page, Miss Gaskin designed when she was at New Look. So everything you can see, I created from scratch. So hand drew it, and it was made into a real life product. So I've got a few to show you here. So I've got a little eye mask here, a reindeer eye mask that I created for our Christmas collection. I've got a mug here that I designed. So I would design my graphics, guys, all the typography here. I would draw the little halo. It's got all like stars all over it. This would be hand drawn. I designed a lot of phone cases. I worked like one of our best-selling departments was like our technology. So as you can see here, this is from our Christmas range as well. He's like a little reindeer that like peeps over the top of your phone. And then I also worked with lots of different materials. So I worked with ceramics. So this is like a little trinket trays, a little dinosaur. And I also worked with like a lot of different sorts of materials. So this is a little seal. He's a stress ball, so you can squeeze him. He's like, yeah, they were really popular when I worked at New Look, really bit out of the ordinary, but everything you can see here on this page is something that I designed. So I was also really lucky to design things like bedding. Like that's something that, you know, not many, it's quite a niche market, and I was really lucky that I could work on like a big scale. That's quite a big scale to work on pattern wise. And yeah, canvas bags, all different types of materials. I really enjoyed this part of my job, designing. So we are just going to quickly go over some of the possible brands that you can work with within the industry. So you've heard me and Miss talk about New Look, Diesel, the Arcadia Group. You've got the likes of ASOS. ASOS is a huge brand and it's growing by the day. You've got River Island, H&M, Marks and Spencer's, John Lewis. They are just a few to name.
Okay, so some highlights of the job. Every day is a different day. You don't know what issues might arise and that you need to sort out. So it's really hard to predict what is going to happen in your day. So for me, that makes it so exciting that you don't know what's going to happen. It's an opportunity to meet lots of new people. As we've said throughout this, there are so many different people that you can meet from all around the world. So it's great. It's a fantastic way of meeting lots of people. And for me, I worked in a company where there was lots of different brands. And if you went to somewhere like Boohoo or ASOS, you would have the same opportunity where you can meet people from different brands and you can share tips, advice, whatever you may need. But it's a great way to meet lots of people. It's fast paced. There is never a dull moment. There is always something to be doing. It's extremely fast paced, but again, that's so exciting that the day is not boring. Problem solving, this was a main part of my day, and that affects every department. It could be that there was a supplier issue or a lorry overturned or a lorry got stuck at a border. How are you going to fix that? What are you going to do? Something come back from testing and you can't produce the product the way you thought you was going to. How are you going to solve that problem? Might be that there's not enough money in the budget. How am I going to solve that? So many different problems that crop up every single day. And for me, that's so interesting. If you love fashion, then the next one is the most exciting, I think. Insight into new fashion trends. You're working a season ahead, maybe 2 seasons ahead. You get to see those new fashion trends growing. I know that I loved it when Topshop would launch something and you'd see those steps that it's taking before the launch. And then when you see it launching and then people are starting to wear those trends, you see that fashion grow. That is the best feeling, knowing your hard work has paid off. And that leads nicely into my final point, watching your daily sales. That's probably one of my favorite things. When you know you've worked so hard on a product and then watching those sales creep up, that is the best feeling, knowing that it was a success.
So looking at perks of the job. So a really good part of the job is that you can meet lots of people. You can, connect with people, be sociable. Pre-corona, you had lots of opportunities to travel. So you could go and see your factories in China, in India, anywhere around the world. You work Monday to Friday, 9 till 5. I was really lucky when I was at New Look, and I'm forever grateful for this. I got the opportunity to attend the huge London Fashion Week. So I got to watch a catwalk show, be on the front row. It was something that I will remember for the rest of my life. It was such an amazing day. You can have inspiration days where you can attend exhibitions. I did that a lot as a designer. If for example, there was a exhibition at the V&A, we was allowed to go out of the office for the day and go to this. You would have discounts to spend in the store that you work for, and a huge perk of working in head office is sample sales. So this is where all of the samples, so think about how many things are made, everything comes as a sample. There's always a sample. And this would all then go into a big sale within head office. It would be like crazy, just rows of clothes and everyone helping themselves. It's not free, you have to pay, but the money usually goes to charity. It's going to a good cause.
And it's nice and cheap as well. It's like £1 a top or something. So career opportunities. So what I love is that everybody starts at the same level. So you all start at a low level and you work your way up. And within each job role, there'll be about 3 levels. And obviously financially, you still get a bonus there, so you don't have to wait too long. And there's opportunities every 6 months for you to progress. So you can progress up the ladder, but you can also move sideways, which is what I did when I first started. I took the opportunity to move from a department to wholesale, and it was like a whole new job. I absolutely loved it, and I'm so grateful that I got that chance to do it. However, there's lots of different departments that you can move across. So it's not just moving up, you can move sideways too. And you get to build so many transferable skills. I know I use a lot of those skills that I've gained from working at Arcadia in my job now. So it's skills that if it's not something you want to do forever, you can take them on with you no matter where you go.
So looking at the entry requirements for these kinds of jobs, you really do need your GCSE maths and English. It is really important. You need to be fashion aware, and you need to, not need to, but it works in your favour if you've got a little bit of retail experience. So working in a store, that's what I did as soon as I could. As soon as I got my national insurance number through the post, I was in a store, Saturday girl, working behind the tills, clean, keeping the shop nice and tidy. This really goes in your favour if you can just get yourself out there as soon as you can, as soon as you're ready. Obviously when it's safe, when Corona's not here. Well, you can do work experience in a fashion office. So when I was at university, that was something they really pushed us to do. So during our summer terms, they would really push us to go and get some experience in head office. And that is exactly what I did, because I already worked for New Look and I was already working for the brands. I had a connection to head office that could get me some work experience. So when you do work experience, it's just your time. Most companies will pay for your travel and they will supply you with lunch. So this is really good to know. So they'll pay for your train fare if the office is in London, and they'll pay for your lunch that day. And it is not a necessary requirement, but it does look good on your CV if you've got a degree level or equivalent. So what steps can you take if you was interested in getting into this industry? So you could work on improving your numeracy skills. You can practice your ICT skills. So if you want to work in design, my guys in graphics, you're on your way. Don't worry. You're nearly pros in everything you need to know to be working as designers. So you would need to know how to use Photoshop, Illustrator, the Adobe Suite if you wanted to work in design. And if you wanted to work in merchandising, you would need to know how to use Excel and Office, Word, for example. It would be really good if you could keep up to date with the fashion trends. If that's something you're interested in, you just do that naturally. That's something that I still do. I love keeping up to date with fashion. So then you can also contact fashion brands to gain work experience. And there is also an amazing college in London. It's called the Fashion Retail Academy, and they offer a lot of entry-level courses that you can go and do to get some experience and knowledge.
So here's just a little bit of evidence as to why we've said you would need all those skills. This is the kind of sheet, no matter what department you're working in, you'd be looking at most of the time, every day. So you'd need to be comfortable with knowing how to refer to items of clothing, looking at them and knowing the style. And this is why we said you need to be comfortable with numbers. So that's why we're saying you need all those skills, because this is the kind of thing that you're going to be looking at every single day. So why should you join? So if you're thinking that this is the career for you, one massive thing, if you love fashion, then of course this is the job for you. There is so many different departments you can go into, and you get to work with what you love all day. So it's great. If you're someone that thinks you love numbers, but you don't know what to do, then again, I think this is a great opportunity with being able to work with numbers, but in a fun environment, working with clothes. I think it's so interesting. It includes a wide range of skills, so you don't just learn how to do one thing. You'll be able to learn about how the brand as a whole works, no matter what department you work in. You have a really good understanding of all departments, and that helps to broaden your skills. It develops your confidence, which is something I really, really appreciate from them. Having to present trade packs to directors, which at first was terrifying, you start to get really confident with it. And talking to people from all over the world, again, that really helps to build your confidence. And finally, every day is different. So no day is boring. So if you're someone that doesn't want to do the same thing all day, every day, then again, this is the career path for you to take.
So finally from us, we're just going to give you a little bit of advice on what you could do if you wanted to get into this industry. So from me, internships is an absolute must when it is safe to do so. Get yourself in head office, see what they are doing. It just helps you as well to make sure that this is definitely the career that you want to do. I know when I did my experience at New Look, I just knew it was what, from seeing what the people done every day in their jobs, it just made me more excited and more inspired to go and get that job that I wanted. So you need to show that you're passionate as well. And as always, keep up to date with fashion trends.
So thank you for listening, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And really excited and different job roles that you went through. So really exciting for our students. And I know that they'll really enjoy it. Guys, we've got just a couple of minutes. We won't have loads of time for questions, but luckily Miss Gaskin and Miss Peeney will be on site. So if you've got any questions, you'll be able to ask them in person as well. But we've got one from Sunny in year 11 that's come through already, which is asking, what did you love about being a fashion designer? So what did you love about making those products? So Miss Gaskin, maybe one for you.
Just that I could be so creative every day, and I was doing what I enjoyed. I was drawing and, you know, developing my skills all the time. It's just something really fun. And if you're really interested in colour, fabrics, fashion, it's, you know, the perfect job. And your drawing skills as well, and always learning something new and different on Adobe. Adobe Illustrator, there's so many tips and tricks that you can do. You're learning every day.
Amazing. And I think that's really exciting that it's kind of new and that there's so many different things. Another question that we've got through, also from year 11, haven't put their name on it, is asking what A levels would be good to take if you wanted to go into this kind of career route. I don't know if you've got any advice on that.
So definitely textiles. Anything from you, Miss?
I think maths could be one, if that's like merchandising, if that's what you wanted to go into. Obviously, business would be a massive help. I think it does help you have a really good understanding of how an organisation works. And I think no matter what department you're in, I think Michelle will agree that you've got to have a really good understanding of how each other work. We're a team, you're not just on your own. But I wouldn't say they have strict A levels you need. They are obviously quite flexible. As long as you're passionate about what you're doing and that comes across, then I'm sure you can justify your A levels that you've picked.
Yeah, absolutely. Some really good advice. And I think, yeah, specific courses as well might have things that you can find out, but absolutely. And those transferable skills that you spoke about are so important. I've got another one which is asking about how you felt going into that environment and how you coped meeting all those new people. So you said you worked with new people. Any top tips for kind of getting over the nerves that might come with that?
Go with questions, have questions prepared. And just be friendly, like ask people about what they do, and you'll soon find that conversation flows. You can ask if they've worked in other brands, because you'll find that it's not people's first brand that they've ever worked for. So again, you'll find that we've all been there, so everyone is super friendly, I found, and there's so many people there that you can talk to.
And my advice is just be yourself, be you, and you know, that's my advice. Just don't change who you are to fit into somewhere. Just be you, go as you every day, and you will be fine.
Amazing. Some great advice there. And then there is another question which is kind of similar to this, and we had this in the last one as well, is how did you manage the stress of tight deadlines? So I know you spoke there about having kind of a really fast-paced environment which you loved, but how did you cope with that stress?
A checklist. I think I said this in there. Checklists get you by on everything. You could prioritize what you needed to do. And I had really good teams surrounding me. So they would ask me what's on my list for today. Can they help with anything? If you're stressed, can we try and split it? So again, everyone, like I said, you're a team in there. You're not on your own. So everyone's willing to help.
Amazing. And some great advice. And I can see the time now, and we are creeping up to 3:10. So huge thank you to you both for joining us. And I'm sure you will be stopped by lots of students asking you more questions in person as well. But thank you for taking the time to talk us through some really great insights into that career and something totally different for our students, and a lot of food for thought. So thank you for joining us. And thank you everyone for watching. We are joined tomorrow by 2 more guest speakers in another 2 brilliant careers. And we can't wait to see you at 2 o'clock tomorrow. So have a lovely day and enjoy the sunshine, everyone. Thank you.